Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of The Workplace. I'm Marsha, founding member of Green Ribbon Group, and I have Sinatra here with me, independent researcher who worked with Green Ribbon Group on a 6-part workplace mental health research series. And we also have a special guest with us today. We have Encik Azman Shah bin Dato Aziz, CEO of Performance Development Consultants Sdn Bhd and a consultant psychotherapist at the Mind Faculty. Hi Encik Azman, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
I'm okay. How are you, Sinatra?
Cannot complain. It's been fantastic, even though the weather doesn't support positivity in general because it's been raining.
It has. So, Encik Azman has a wealth of experience spanning over 25 years in clinical and consultancy roles across diverse settings, including crisis intervention, inpatient psychiatric care, and private practice, right?
Yes.
And Encik Azman also holds a master's degree in counseling psychology from West Virginia University. So welcome to the show, where we will try to make this as casual as possible. Right?
Yeah. Don't be nervous,
I'm
Marsha.
nervous. No, I'm really a bit nervous. I don't know why.
It's just us.
Okay. So for the topic today, for this episode, we will be diving into the general workplace mental health landscape in Malaysia. Okay? So let's just dive into the questions. So as an organizational psychotherapist or a psychologist with over 25 years of experience, can you highlight any notable changes you've observed in the workplace setting since you started your career path?
I would say since I started my career, meaning that coming back to Malaysia, and it was a while ago, and at that point, when you talk about mental health, people will run helter-skelter, especially in the corporations, because they feel that if there's any linkage to that company to mental health, their employees or something, that they feel that their customers, people will lose confidence in them.
Okay.
Because mental health is a huge taboo. That was years ago. And to be honest with you, the single most or greatest impact on the mindset of how corporates look at mental health, I don't know whether to say fortunately or unfortunately, it was the COVID crisis. Yeah.
It's a silver lining in the pandemic.
Yeah, it was, I guess. And that was the most drastic pivot by corporations.
Okay.
In Malaysia.
In Malaysia. I mean, I'm sure in other countries as well, but in Malaysia, because, again, it was a taboo. No one wants to talk about it and so on. So, and when the reality kicked in, and lots of organizations started to say, hey, let's look at psychological safety, and some, and then we, of course, we were glad to help and so on. So that was the main pivot, so to speak. Okay, so this has been a couple of years since that. Okay, and truly, yes, we get a lot more requests in regard to what can we do.
Looking at the programs or services that you provide.
For them.
For them.
For them. I hope that it will continue to follow through and not only a knee-jerk effect. Okay? And then, to be honest with you, why are we doing it? Because now, to be honest with you, the employees who come in, especially the younger employees, they expect some form of mental health support.
Benefit.
Yeah, benefit. They kind of sort of expect. And the population that is using it, mental health services, mainly the younger generation.
Okay.
So, well, I guess it's a good thing.
I have this one story from one of our interviewees last year who basically said that the younger employees have come to the senior leaders to talk about some of these dynamics of mental health in the company, right? Because it was quite problematic inside. But it was hard for the senior leaders to admit that there was problem in terms of mental health, because it would be akin to admitting that they are making mistakes in the way they run their businesses, right?
Indeed.
So and this is, I think, after COVID, this kind of conversation was happening. What's the attitude the senior leaders' attitude towards the younger employees at the moment? Obviously, we've been talking about that there's higher literacy, higher awareness of mental health, as you've also like explained just now. But do they really understand what it entails in terms of like what kinds of benefits that they should provide to the employees?
Okay, so you mentioned, I smile because it's funny because we just work with an organization of more senior leaders, okay, and you're asking how they are looking at the needs of the younger generation. The senior leaders of this corporation, for themselves, because we did it for them, we assessed them in a sense, and it came out pretty serious, okay, and it was hard for them to accept it, you know. So when it comes to the younger generation, I mean, they apt to be more open to it. But what I'm saying is to self, it's a little bit, you know, tapered. It's a little bit more need to self. You know, I'm okay, we're all right, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, the younger generation would need some help because younger generation are brittle, etc., etc., etc. So in regard to that, how they look at the younger generation, I think they're more open to it. But like what you said, I agree. You know, if we admit that there are mental health issues, then it looks bad on us. 20 over years ago it was like that. Now also still like that.
Now still, although there are some variations in the way.
Indeed.
Yeah, was COVID. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, do you remain hopeful towards the way it's being?
Yeah. I be honest with you. I honestly, the trend is going to continue in regard to accepting mental health, being more open to it and all that sort of stuff. And you know, the younger generation eventually is going to go into leadership positions and so on. So am I hopeful? Yes. Yes. And we must provide the right type of mental health help. Not just to check the box.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's important. But hopeful, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would be curious to ask, like, how do you convince all these people to ensure that it's not just about ticking boxes? Because that's, from our interviews pun macam some of the sentiments given to us was it's still like about KPIs and ticking boxes.
Yes.
So I guess there is still that challenge in terms of like the Malaysian punya landscape.
Indeed. I didn't want to say this earlier, but you know, they gotta do it sincerely.
Yes.
You know, and not just ticking the box, checking the box, you know. And some of them are doing that now, kind of, sort of. But you asked me how to convince them, and you guys have done research. You guys have the data, and if you look at the data, holy Moses, they should be scared. They should be very concerned of what can happen, and you know, whether we like it or not, even in the Western countries, when I was still working in the US, and when the numbers came up in research indicating how mental health will impact your bottom line. Everything changed. From the board, they'll tell you, yeah, you must have this, yeah, you must have that, and all that sort of stuff. When it impacts your bottom line, and in Malaysia already, they have those information, they have those data, how it impacts the bottom line. So eventually companies will come around. No choice.
Yeah. Marsha, do you want to add on?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to ticking the box, checking the box, and eventually that companies will come around into having support services in place, right? I mean, let's talk about crafting a mental health charter in Malaysia. On as a company, right? Okay, maybe these are, if there are a checkbox, these are the checkboxes. These are the things that you should check to show that your company is a mentally healthy workplace, kan? So if Malaysia were to implement like a workplace mental health charter kind of thing, what key components or principles do you think should be included to effectively address and prioritize mental well-being in the day-to-day of an organizational setting?
Okay. Now I'm going to take a step back.
Okay.
Okay.
Because we mentioned.
Yeah. I'm not saying that all the companies and corporations in Malaysia are not serious.
Of course.
Don't
of
get me
course.
wrong.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
get me wrong.
No generalization here.
Yeah. So the truth is, there's a lot of organizations also are doing really, really well, sincere. They do their research and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of companies doing that, and a lot of companies are getting on board, so to speak. Okay. So you say, you know, if there's a charter, what would we need to include? First and foremost, I think part of it is education in the corporation to not the word is not demystify. Well, maybe demystify. Yeah, you know what mental health is and the taboos especially.
The myths and facts.
Yeah, the myths and facts, what it's all about and so on. And people always think, like, if you have a mental health service, an example is EAP, right? It's been going on for 1,000 years. You know, Malaysia is just coming in.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, what's the purpose of EAP? And EAP is not just for people who have problems. It's not. Even as a psychotherapist, when people come and see me, can I say this? Yesterday I had a client. Client came and see me. He was my client for a year and a half ago. He is actually a doctor. Okay, so at that point in time, he came to see me to make decisions, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to be, and what am I going to specialize in. Okay, he was my client. So eventually, long story short, he decided to go to Ireland, specialization in psychiatry. Okay, so he's been there for a year and a half. All right, so he came back for Chinese New Year. So he came back and I met up with him.
Baru je lah.
Yeah, yesterday. Came up, he met up with him on yesterday. He's a psychiatrist doing superbly well. Okay. So he came in, he doesn't have a mental problem issue or whatever. He just came in to, you know, to check and balance and see whether everything is going okay, right, and all that sort of stuff. Whether his career, his positioning, everything is good. That's all. I mean.
So it doesn't necessarily mean macam if you have a problem, then you come see.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was just, you know, he said that basically I just want to check, you know, what's going on, whether I'm headed in the right direction, and some confirmation of this and that and all that sort of stuff. And he was doing superbly well. So I don't think I'll see him again until the next Chinese New Year.
A long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, stepping back from having this charter in place pun kan, let's talk about the challenges faced in companies in general. So just now you mentioned about how the senior employees view junior employees, or rather the new generation coming in, right? But from your perspective and from your experience with your clients, what are some of the primary challenges or mental health issues that Malaysian organizations are experiencing today, apart from the intergenerational punya perception? What would you think what the challenges they are facing today, and how do these challenges compare to those faced in the past?
So with relating back to still the corporates, yeah? Okay. Like I said, it's getting better. People are more open to it. You know, the younger generations are more. I'll be honest, a lot of them, I'll say this, are more than willing to come if you have the services. Of course, the confidentiality is an issue. It's important. It's critical. And I'll be honest with you. You know, we have to make sure that we protect the confidentiality of whoever is coming for the service. And that has to be put in place, you know, so that they are confident and so on. So that's important. Then it's about malu, shame, and so on. Then we talk about our culture, because our culture, there is also traditional form of healing. It's tough sometimes, you know, to come in to see a psychologist or something of that sort, when they also have opportunities to go for traditional healing and so on. So that's a bit of a challenge.
It's interesting. I'm trying to synthesize things that you've said thus far, because obviously there's still that stigma, there's still that maybe internal opposition against like the term mental health itself because it scares everybody off. And the story that you told me just now was that it's not always about if you go to therapy because you have mental health problems, but maybe you just need help to process decisions in life. I myself was. You were my therapist for 7 months, and I needed your guidance throughout those 7 months to make some of major life decisions itself, right? So I can understand why there's that need to demystify the term mental health itself for companies, for certain companies like in Malaysia. How do I follow that up with a question? You mentioned about confidentiality, which is an important thing because we come across some of that in our interviews that they don't want to use any of these benefits and support services because they're scared.
Correct.
Even though when their employer said that the confidentiality would be ensured, they would still have that suspicion towards the HR and everything. Right? So how do you what would you say to the younger employees today that yes, there are still these challenges, but there are ways to overcome it?
Well, I think what you just said is there are ways to overcome it. In fact, in the organization itself, how they set up the
Process.
The process on how you hook up with your therapist and so on, even in EAP and so on, there are ways where it bypasses HR.
The HR.
Totally. It bypasses. Okay. And the company that's providing the service, will report to the company, the organization, how many people, what the problems like, that's it. No names, no names whatsoever. It can be done. And also, instead of going through HR to hook up with your EAP provider, you go straight to the EAP provider. So over here, it's a lot of maturity on the organization, trust,
trust,
and working with the provider as well. You know, and I think the more you're talking about the younger generation, the more they get to know the provider, the therapist and stuff, because if you do a full-fledged program, so the therapist or the EAP provider will come into the organization and give wellness, get to know the people and all that sort of stuff and so on. And by doing that, you kind of sort of demystify who the therapist is, you get to know the people and so on, and the comfort level goes up. You know, so I think some of those things would help the younger generation to I think use the service a lot more.
It sounds to me that they need courage to explore possibilities to get better. If not to get better, then to at least like to figure out what options are available to them.
Good. Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely 100%. Because a lot of opportunities. I mean, they have a lot of opportunities in regard to, because young employees, they are aggressive. They want to have to achieve a lot of success. They want to do things very fast and quick and all that sort of stuff. And they can use this as a form of support service and to help guide them to get to where they want to go and so on. You know, absolutely. Yeah, they can use that service in that way as well.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to jump on that?
Not quite. I mean, I agree, because some of people my age or people my generation, they might be scared to speak up about their own mental health, right? And I think speaking up about mental health requires courage, definitely. But that also, I mean, there is a need to help them understand that this courage pun, to speak up about your mental health within the workplace setting, it won't affect their career path in that company. Right? Because there are a few people that I know, they have, for example, they have a mental condition, and they do need, they do need medicine that helps for it, right? And they cannot afford it for themselves if they pay for it themselves. So of course you can use the help of the company's resources, but she doesn't want to, or they don't want to, because they are worried that, okay, if my employer knows about this, then maybe they would think that I'm not good enough.
Yes.
Or rather they would think that I won't get promotions. You know, there will be less work given to me, and I'll just stay stagnant my whole career life. So, how do you help them navigate that challenge?
Tough question. Okay, before I even attempt to answer that question, now, that reality, what you just shared with us in regard to if my company knows that I'm seeking mental health, besides the fee, the money, and so on, mental health, would it impact my career? You know, that is something I will have to say that anyone in that position will feel that it's a reality to consider. Will it impact my career? You know,
So it's normal for them to have that kind of
That doubt?
feeling and concern.
yeah. I mean, I don't know whether normal or not, but it is a concern. Yeah.
That sure, okay,
You
yeah.
know? and that's why we have to build the trust with
Yes.
the organization and the employees and staff. You know, regardless of what we said just now, some services you can bypass the HR, it goes straight to the even that. So they are concerned that it's going to impact my career. That's you know. So how do you overcome that? It's tough. Again, building courage. Seeing that mental health is actually something that's going to assist them in their career versus not. Because let's be real. If we talk about someone who has very serious mental health issues, anxiety, depression, or whatever, if it's not handled, not taken care of, it will derail you.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt it will derail you. So they need to see the good instead of, I don't know whether to say the bad or not.
Yeah. I was reminded of the wisdom words Aryan said a few months ago, that it's easy for younger generation to speak up about mental health. They can easily demand for it, like they'll write about it on social media. But it's a totally different thing when you actually take actions, take steps to get better in terms of your improving your mental health.
Right.
So I guess courage is one of those keywords that we can nail for this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree that.
Yeah. Marsha, do you have anything? Because I have a question. Okay. You mentioned the word traditional healing, which is one of the final points in our research. We cannot pinpoint that because we don't even know how to approach it. So I think I must have mentioned this to you before in our previous engagements, that a few of our interviewees mentioned tradition, like Malaysian punya culture and local culture and tradition, play a part in the way they approach mental health. For example, there's this one person who basically said to us that it's forbidden in Islam to terminate someone with a mental health condition.
Yes, you mentioned that.
Yeah, I must have mentioned that, right?
Yes.
And the other one was basically saying that we do not, in this financial institution, basically said, we do not really worry about the mental health standards in our company because we know our values, our virtues are derived from Al-Quran and Sunnah. So everything is already written there. So we just figure out which are the things that can support the way that we run our business without really driving us insane. So yeah, any thoughts about tradition in Malaysia? Because from the way I said, it truly affects the way people converse about mental health in this country.
Another tough question. Okay, I have to tread carefully in this one.
Yeah.
No, I see the truth. At the end of the day, okay, I'll just say something very generic. God's will, right? God's will.
Yeah.
Okay, God's will.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that our organizations who value the Islamic values in running their company, how they treat people and all that stuff, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong, because we have phenomenal values and so on, how to treat people and so on. And the point you brought up, that if someone has a mental health issue, you cannot terminate them.
Yeah.
That's super, But we cannot assume that if we do everything accordingly, to our religion and so on, so forth, everything will go fine. Because sometimes it's not about what we practice. You can practice. And we practice, Islam and all that sort of stuff really well and the values. However, it's not the religion is the problem. It's the individual is the problem. So it's got nothing to do with the religion. You know, because in mental health, there's so many. We talk about, you know, daripada mild, moderate to severe, and it's a continuum. So it's sometimes got nothing to do with what is practiced, what is not.
I see.
It is the individual who has the challenges.
Okay, it brings me back to one of those conversations I had that partly the stigma against mental health in Malaysia is because sometimes they relate it to some of the more spiritual aspects of the religion. Like for example, if someone is like depressed or like have a severe anxiety, they say like they kena santau lah, or like go hantu following him or her. So that kind of thing. So I guess in certain parts of Malaysia, that kind of, or even certain segments of the society in Malaysia, that kind of like perception is still prevailing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
We were told of this story of someone who was having like a major breakdown, and then one of the colleague was just trying to ruqyah the person.
Really?
Yeah, perhaps out of like confusion also, like what kind of things that you can do for someone in that situation, right? So I guess like when you do not really know, again it's a question of about mental health literacy. If you do not know what to do in that kind of situation, like what can you realistically do, right? Like, so I guess that person went on to ruqyah lah.
But well, I mean, what are the things that someone should do if a colleague is in distress?
Well, first and foremost, don't feel that you have to fix
Solve
your
it.
colleague. You solve it. You're not trained to do that. Genuinely practice empathy and know where to refer your colleague to. I think that's most important. But if the colleague is in a pretty serious state, which is a danger to self or to others, then that person needs to be rather close to that person until he or she can find help for that person. You know, because it can be quite serious. But regardless, it is not your responsibility to fix a person, because you know you're not trained to do so. Yeah.
We'll talk about training. What are the types of trainings that companies can adopt into their workplace?
Well, one of the things we talk about building mental resilience. You know, and depends who provides those services or those trainings and stuff. During the MCO, as you know, Petronas is always ahead. I can mention Petronas there. Yeah. Petronas is ahead of the game. Okay, they're ahead of the game. They talk about psychological safety long before anybody in Malaysia really talks about it, and so on and so forth. So during the MCO, they realized that this is a concern, and we design programs for them, and in regard to managing their mental health, resiliency, and so on, and they also talk about training their managers, superiors to identify what are the issues, what are the challenges, and how to refer what to do, and so on and so forth. So, you know, part of it is again, you know, education and so on. I can't.
For example, the trainings that I know, for a person to equip themselves with mental health knowledge would be mental health first aid and psychological first aid. So, are there similar trainings for a workplace?
Yes. What you just mentioned, those are the programs that are coming up now. And then to aid, to help, to assist organizations, you know, to understand what it is and what is mental health, first aid and so on. You know, the first thing that you do when you notice something, those are all good, you know. All good trainings, all good, you know, to educate the people in the workplace what to do, what not to do.
What not to do,
yeah. So those are all good. And to be honest with you, we need more of that. Tak cukup. Yeah. You know, but we need more of that. So, and it's not a huge issue anymore when that is offered and an organization say, hey, I don't want. It's not a huge issue as it was maybe dulu lah. Sekarang people are more open to it and so on.
Really?
Okay.
But if you go to a company and say, okay, I think you need mental health training for employees. Wouldn't that be like politically for the company? Wouldn't that be macam, why are you telling me that my employee got got masalah. You think I'm not running the
Yeah.
company well ke?
That still exists.
Mm.
But now you are pitching a solution.
Right.
You're not pitching a problem. You're not saying, hey, your company's got mental health issues. I said, this is a solution for you to apply, to do this, to do that, and all that sort of stuff. And not every organization can afford an EAP service. You know, so you're pitching a solution. I think this has to do with how a person
Views.
pitches the solution. And you're right. Kalau kita overstress, mental health.
Yeah,
What's wrong with me, my friend?
Yeah.
Got nothing wrong with me. You're the one who's nuts.
Mm.
You know. So yeah, I think in that sense lah.
Yeah.
For as a person, I mean, you provide trainings, right? So as a person who provide trainings, is that enough trainers to help run these training programs in companies?
Why you ask me all these difficult questions?
Sorry.
But the demand is there, right? The demand now.
Yeah, it's weeding off now a little bit more than before. Now they're
During the
looking.
pandemic?
Now they're looking for things that they can have within the organization.
Oh,
you know,
internal services.
more looking towards that lah. Tapi the training is still there, but lesser than masa MCO. Now, your question about do we have
Enough.
okay? Now, when I tell my old story lah.
Okay.
When I first came back, I've been practicing psychotherapy in the States. When I first came back, literally in the country, I could calculate it both hands the number of so-called therapists is around lah. Psychiatrists banyak, much more, but you're talking about psychotherapists, psychologists, little to very few.
So the one that diagnose ada ramai, but then the ones to, I mean, for the day-to-day and all, tak ramai. Oh,
Tak ramai. The psychiatrists usually would be in hospitals.
I see.
And then a few of them will have their psychiatric centers kan, macam mental health centers and so on, like mind faculty. But there were not many traditional psychotherapists, psychologists and all that sort of stuff. Tak ramai.
I see.
Okay, so today now, Alhamdulillah, thank God, so there's more. There's more out there. And then there are many universities that are producing these guys. But these guys come out as therapists in whichever form, like psychologists, psychotherapists, whatever. Not all of them are trainers.
I see.
So delivering the message could be a problem. You know, delivering it accurately and all that sort of stuff could be a problem. So, you know, there are more than ever before. And bukan dia tak ada knowledge, tapi maybe it's just the delivery saja.
Alright.
I see. Okay. Well, I can ask you a lot more, but since you mentioned the pandemic just now, I would just like to ask about the differences, or rather, how did companies during the pandemic kan? How did they manage that crisis?
How is who? Companies.
Yes, companies. Sorry, another hard question.
The truth, they don't know how to.
Okay.
That's the truth. You know, they don't know what hit them. In fact, studies indicate that 37% of the employees at that time said that the companies were not providing
enough services. Oh, I see.
But my point is not that they don't want to.
They don't know.
That's right. At that point in time, they don't know. You can't blame them.
Yeah. It's rather consistent with our interviews as well. That they know they have to do something, but they know
what's the
to do.
stepping
Yeah.
stone.
Yeah.
I see. For companies yang still don't know what to do or where to reach out to people like you, where can they go?
Oh,
The mind faculty.
Mind faculty. The mind faculty.
Okay.
Wait. To be honest with you, even the government is doing a lot. Okay, they're setting up all kinds. In fact, during the pandemic, also after a while, they were setting up all these hotlines and all that sort of stuff. At least to get something, at least to get someone. Okay, and I think right now in regard to services that are provided by government, state government and all that stuff, ada yang banyak. You know, How much and how well they've been used, I'm not sure. And then when you're talking about the private sector and semua tu, you know, organizations such as the Mind Faculty dah banyak dah. Yeah, and then they have quality people inside. Then you have to choose lah, just like anything else kan. You have to choose your provider. What?
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, the key point is like taking action. Have the courage to take action, that first step, and figure out as you move forward.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe we talked a lot about Gen Zs just now, kan?
Yeah, in the previous episode.
Yeah, previous episode as well. But what about the old, like the older generation employees? What kind of challenges do they come to you with?
Okay, so I mean, they do come. Depends on what's level of their position. Yeah, a lot of it. If you talk about the corporates, a lot of it is work related stress.
Okay.
The demands put upon them, and we're talking about, you know, large corporates and all that stuff, and also small SMEs. But you still have those demands and so on.
Or even small SMEs.
A few,
Okay.
yeah, but more to the corporate,
Yeah. Okay.
because the demands is great, tremendous, where to go, and like what you said accurately just now, they may have services in their organization. Okay, they may have EAP services in their organization, but they bypass that.
The uptake is not as much.
Well, I can't say the uptake is not much because of the fear of if I go, they find out, then is it going to impact my career and stuff, you know. So they do come, but sometimes they don't use the services that they
The
have.
companies provide.
Yeah, because I know like where you from, so I know you have EAP, you know. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we can wrap up the episode because kalau nak cakap pasal topik ni, we can talk about hours. But before we close the episode, if you could give 3 tips to not only Gen Zs but just working the workforce in general in reaching out or anything regarding the workplace, in their mental health in the workplace, what would it be?
One, don't wait too long.
I waited too long before I saw you. Right?
but
Exposing yourself.
okay.
Oh, it's okay.
You know, don't wait too long. Okay, and your first, I suppose, line of assistance or help is a friend, someone that you can confide in, someone that you can confide in and all that stuff. And then at the end, you need to look at coming to see a therapist. Mental health is not a negative thing. It's going to, it will help you. It will benefit you. You know, so don't look at it as I have a problem, I have to go there and all that sort of stuff. But it's going to be something that's going to benefit you for sure.
An investment for your future.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a few male friends actually who approached me because they knew I had been seeing a therapist then, right? So basically, I just had to emphasize that going to see a therapist doesn't mean that you have major mental health issues. Sometimes you just need to work out solutions, right? And like try to dismantle all these like convoluted thoughts that you have in your minds and try to see things clearly.
Right.
So I guess that's also one of the key points. Thanks to what you just mentioned just now.
Male mental health.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's something. One more before we close. I'm so sorry, but one more.
It's okay.
When it comes to
We're continuing, I guess.
sorry, just one more. You mentioned about male, right? So I just wanted to know, macam the gender differences in seeking out for help. To you, like, is it the same or is it skewed to one more gender?
Okay, if I may look at old data and current data. Okay, in the past, when we talk about mental health and some traditional, I don't know whether the word is traditional or not, some mental health issues, you talk about depression, you talk about anxiety and all that sort of stuff and so on. The degree of the gender that suffers the most or at least will at least would speak up or admit will be the women. You know, XYZ percentage, I can't remember specifically. And the males will be lesser in identifying and coming and all that stuff. Over the years, when I'm talking about over the years, I'm talking about the last 10, 15 years, the gap between male and female is
Closer.
Closer.
Oh, okay.
Closer now than before.
Mm-hmm.
So either males have more mental health issues
Or more confident.
or they have more
Something.
courage to come out and say, hey, listen, I got a problem. So I feel that it's closer. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop myself from asking more questions.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Azman.
Thank you,
so much,
Azman. Thank you so
Sinatra.
much.
Thank you. Really appreciate to be here.
Oh,
Thanks,
yeah.
guys.
Anytime.
No
Yes.
worries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.